Thanks for attention. We should start. Next, we will have a panel, and our guests are Dr. Hu again from Rice University, and then we'll also invite Dr. Cao Yinxin from Singapore Management University. So the topic is about what ChatGPT can bring to knowledge graph learning. What kind of opportunity can bring. And actually, we can also extend this topic to different direction. So let's start. Actually, and then we're also welcome to have a question about ChatGPT, especially we just have just introduction to ChatGPT. So why not, Dr. Hu, you want to?
So I just gave a presentation on ChatGPT. That's why we made several, just for some audience who didn't come to the talk earlier. So a few takeaways I just want to repeat. First one is in many cases, ChatGPT cannot be directly applied. And we have to find alternative ways to really leverage the effectiveness of ChatGPT and the capabilities of ChatGPT. And that's probably the first takeaway. That's why if you want to really leverage ChatGPT in your own downstream applications, you have to be very careful in whether ChatGPT is the right tool you want to investigate. Second, whether you really are able to identify the right ways of using ChatGPT or large models, not necessarily ChatGPT, especially due to the fact ChatGPT is not open source. And whether or not your data is sensitive, you have to protect the privacy of the data and your users. So that's very tricky. We identified several ways of using ChatGPT for downstream applications in specifically in clinical text mining, and we are also working very hard to try to identify those engineering tricks. Nothing about science, okay? Engineering tricks to leverage ChatGPT in different applications. That's first. Second, we also introduced probably the progress in my group, how we can leverage black box and the white box models for detecting whether or not the texts are generated by machine. And the conclusion was so for now, no problem. White box models, black box models, they work very well in detecting whether the texts have been generated by machine or human being. In the shorter future, so black box will fail, okay, and then white box will become the mainstream, especially with the evolution when ChatGPT or similar models become more and more powerful. And in the longer future, I would expect both white box and the black box models will be problematic, and it will be extremely challenging or impossible to detect, especially when normal users like us, like small groups or small companies, they have access to extremely powerful open source large language models. And especially for many, I hope security folks will develop new ways, but given the current technology, the white box and the black box models, they will not be able to detect texts. And this needs the efforts. And fortunately, everybody's on the same page for all of the stakeholders, including the developers like OpenAI, including the government, the society, the normal users. Everybody is on the same page. We need ways to regulate this. And yeah, that's pretty much the takeaways of my talk. So I'm open to any questions and discussion because we don't have a lot of people. That's why please feel free to just stand up and give in your comments, questions, and anything to discuss. Yeah, it's not a question answering, okay? we just form this as a discussion. And I'm still learning. And I just told many students after the talk. So I feel like ChatGPT is put everybody on the similar starting line. So no matter previously what you have worked on, and we just have tons of opportunities to reform this whole, not only research community, but also engineering, commercialization communities, applications. So we have just so many opportunities. However, how to really leverage this opportunity to position you better for future competition? This is really critical, and I myself feel very excited about doing this. Yeah. So let's brainstorm.
Lots of opportunity to data mining and even healthcare. So, Dr. Cao, you work on NLP. So, what like ChatGPT is from NLP. So, what kind of opportunity or challenge that will bring to NLP or yeah?
From the perspective on NLP, I think most concern question will be, okay, do we still have some problem to solve? Yeah, will we lose our job? Yeah, because the ChatGPT looks like shows a great potential to be a general solver to solve every NLP task to and even not in the closed world assumption, under open world assumption. Yeah, but later I will also show some examples. So why we still need to do some research and why do some research on NLP and why we still need a fine-tuned model, why we still need knowledge graph. And I still think knowledge graph is a complementary model to GPT series, the large language model. Yeah, so yeah, it's a big challenge, but also brings a lot of opportunities because ChatGPT is a really a powerful tool. But so we can use such a powerful tool to do something we can now do before, and yeah. So
Okay. Before we let audience ask question, I think you can work on quick on your question. So, one general question is: so, as a researcher, work on knowledge graph or other direction, or even graph learning. What kind of opportunity or how can we take advantage of ChatGPT to kind of accelerate our own research?
So your question is
like specifically for research for students.
Yeah.
How can we take advantage of ChatGPT to in our own research?
Okay, so first of all, I think it's the time we should reconsider all the tasks, especially the NLP task, if the task will exist in the near future or it will be well solved. So that's the first problem, to rethinking your task. If it's necessary, what's the meaningful, what's the hard problem in this task? And second, so for example, for the information extraction, and I think we have done some empirical studies on the our large language model enhanced information extraction, a lot of experiments, and I think there are also a lot of evaluations in recent papers, and it still shows that the fine-tuned model outperformed large language model on the information extraction, especially for the sequential labeling problem. So I think the second thing is to explore the limitation of the large language model. So you know where he can do well and where he still need to be improved, maybe via another fine-tuned model. And third, I think the most important is the evaluation, because the large language model converts all the tasks into a general format, input, output, the same format, question answering. So all the answers will be free text. So it also brings a great challenge to how to evaluate the answers. Maybe contain the correct facts, maybe conduct consistent logic reasoning, and maybe it contains some language bias or not. But as you know, it's a long history. It's still very, very challenging to evaluate the generated text. We still lack of very like formal evaluation for the open-ended question answering. So I think that's the 3 points.
So questions from the audience?
Hello, panelists. Thank you for the talk. Yeah. So my comment or question related to the ChatGPT is that, like, although there are a lot of opportunities in terms of engineering and applications in applications using ChatGPT, but where an individual researcher stands in terms of fundamental researcher who is doing some work in the basic tasks of the fundamental NLP, because on those tasks, these models, large-scale models, works really efficiently. So where does an individual's research stand in after the evolution of this ChatGPT and other large-scale models? Thank you.
Yeah, actually, so also following Xiao's question, so how students should react to this wave of ChatGPT and also the questions. Yeah, so to answer this question, I would say, so first, students, you do not have to work on ChatGPT, okay? So we should really try to build our fundamental technologies, and I can give you a couple of examples. So first, still to build up ChatGPT, there are still the fundamentals will be system skills, like understanding of natural language processing, statistical models, and so on and so on. That's why still, if you have been working on a problem for a while, you don't have to give up. Okay, you don't have to really think about convert to chase this kind of popular topics. So that's one thing we need to really be very careful. So even as a mature, I consider myself, I'm managing a large lab. That's why I can take some risks. I can chase whatever I want. However, for specific students, you do not have to risk your whole career. And also, you have to be very competitive in terms of basic statistics, machine learning, programming, and so on. You don't have to chase ChatGPT. However, how to really leverage this opportunity? So one suggestion is really, you need to find a way of combining your previous strengths with a large language model. If you really want to change a little bit towards this direction. One example was I have a student working on explainable AI, which is try to understand how model works, how application works, and how decisions made by providing some explanations. That's why he identified a very interesting topic. So the one I just mentioned during my talk, several of our applications involve how to convert natural language to codes. For example, circle queries. It has a lot of applications in business intelligence, in healthcare, in many domains, because people want to use natural language to communicate with a machine, such that a machine can convert this natural language to circle queries to interact with the database. And however, one problem which has been criticized a lot by the community is okay, if the circle query, it doesn't compile, it doesn't work, that's okay. But people concerned about what if the circle query is incorrectly constructed. It misunderstood what the user really want, because the accuracy is not at 100%. It's not even close. It will provide, what if ChatGPT provides a wrong answer to our end users, right? That will be very problematic, or sometimes it will create a lot of problems. And then my students proposed a very interesting way to tackle the problem, which is okay, the conversion from natural language to circle query, the accuracy is not very high. However, the conversions explanation from circle queries back to natural language, it is very high. If it is not 100%, it's very close. Because a circle query is a very a formally defined language. And the conversion, the translation from circle query back to natural language, the accuracy is extremely high. That's why we identified kind of two-way verification. It means like, okay, once the system converted the natural language to circle query, and we will ask we will convert it back to natural language and ask this user, do you mean this? Okay, so do you really mean like you want to identify female in Singapore between 30 and 40-year-old, and they want to spend like $1,000 every month for something? Is this what you mean? And with this verification, it turns out we solve a very important problem by like really enabling this application to be very high accuracy. So I hope I provided this example clearly. Okay, my whole point is like try to leverage what you have been doing, and then if you really want to work on some topics on ChatGPT, that's fine. And or I mean, another possibility in doing some fundamental research is, and I can provide you another example, which is like pushed by my startup company, in which, because my group has been working on, we have had a lot of like customers in manufacturing, and we have been working on developing commercial solutions to by analyzing time series data for asset monitoring, for anomaly detection, and so on, for manufacturing customers. And because of the motivation of large language models, we were thinking about, are we able to like really develop large models for time series data, which is still a less touched topic in this domain. And also at the same time, I'm involved as an advisor for some other startup companies who are working on healthcare problems to analyze EEG data, ECG data, which turn to be like time series data as well. And how to develop a large model based on the success of large language models. This is considered as a very fundamental problem, involves a lot of like very challenging topics to make this as not only a research effort, but also an engineering system. So yeah, the second suggestion I would like to give is like thinking about the challenging problems in your domain, which can be really not can be solved by ChatGPT, but can be motivated by the success of ChatGPT. And whether or not those like, for example, large models can be used as the tricks, such as reinforcement learning with human feedback. Because another company working on trading, they want to say, okay, whether or not this kind of tricks, which have been very successful in training large language models, can be used for trading platforms. They ask me, so I have no idea about trading, but I can provide some materials to them. And I think that's one way of like really boosting their own performance. So yeah, that's pretty much what I can think of by, combining your previous expertise and experiences in combination with the system, the fundamental technology, and some like engineering tricks to power the success of ChatGPT for your own sake. Yeah. I hope this makes sense.
Say something. Oh.
Thank you, Professor. So in terms of your viewpoints, I think sometimes, for example, NLP, right? Most of our tasks have been well solved. So there's no chance for us to, like, as you said, continue our research in the combination with ChatGPT. Okay, so it is a reality, but sure, yeah, it's true. So anyway, Professor Cao, and most of our researcher has been mentioned and have noticed that the ChatGPT, or let's say GPT, frequently produce some output which contains actually false, right? False and anti-factual outputs. But but you just look at when you zoom out and look the output, it looks like okay. The answer is okay, but in detail, that's false. Okay, so is a promising way to correct the false output is to integrate the external structural knowledge, right? So, but here is the question: without having access to the ChatGPT or GPT, what can we do to for the integration and knowledge integration? That's the problem. Thanks.
Okay, so to your question is, without assessing the internal mechanism of ChatGPT, can we recognize and correct the?
What can we do?
Well, okay, what can we do? What can we do to the close AI, right? Yeah.
for the cross topic of knowledge base and
Yeah. So again, I think the first problem is the evaluation. Actually, except for the costly manual human evaluation, how can you recognize the false in ChatGPT answers, right? And I think that's really a big problem. And yeah, actually we are doing some works. I think in a few months we will pose a challenge about how to evaluation. And so back to the problem, I think that for the current tasks, so you can find people, researchers, try to post some limitation to the answers. So they didn't do some open-ended question answering because you cannot evaluate the answers. So they just do some question answering, but the answer will be very short. Yeah, we do some extractive or very short abstractive question answering. So currently, all we can do is to evaluate short answers or some predefined set of labels. So more realistically, you just find out the tasks with very fixed output space, the target labels. And if you want to find some tasks, okay, we still can do. You just check what GPT they didn't include in the instruction tuning, right? They create like over 1,000 tasks, but they held out a series of difficult tasks for evaluation. They didn't include this task into the instruction tuning so that they can do a fair evaluation. So maybe that's a task or opportunities. And also you can check a lot of evaluation papers and you will find, okay, like for the I think it's the symbolic reasoning, they really perform poorly, right? So I think that's our, by the way, information extraction is okay.
Yeah. Okay, you just answered the evaluation step, right? The evaluation to assess the true or false of the outcome, the output. So another question is, what can we do to, for example, like integrating the external structural knowledge into the large language model? You know, we don't have the access.
Yeah, actually, I have one comment on this. So this is also related to a previous question regarding, so what are the fundamental contributions can be done from our students? So we do not have direct access to ChatGPT. Okay, we can only have, so they just open their API. However, we do not have access to their code. However, what I want to say is like, first, you are not creating a commercial system to be used by many others. So we are doing research in a very focused small topic. That's why you don't have to work on ChatGPT. You can work on, for example, Fluenty5 or OPT or other open source like large language models. And the fundamental techniques, if they can work very well in combination with OPT or other large language models with a structural learning algorithms, I strongly believe more or less they will be able to adapt it to ChatGPT as well. Okay. Hope this makes sense, right? And this will not only enhance the understanding of the whole problem, but also will give students a very good training in terms of fundamental techniques. So
So you are saying we play with the smaller one,
yes,
the open source.
yes, yes. And also you may have the question, oh, in a university lab, so the computational resources might be very limited. However, at least in my lab with a server, we are able to host the OPT 13B, okay, and which is 13 billion, so which can be hosted in a small server. So that's not a big issue. That's why, and there are like 1 billion parameter versions. You can play with that and learn how large language models works. And then, I mean, at the time when you intern in a company, you will be in a very good position comparing to other researchers by playing with those like open source versions. And also, you have a comment like, we may or may not have a lot of work to do in NLP domain. I strongly disagree, okay? I think this is the best time for NLP researchers because they are like, they know the fundamentals much better than me as a data mining people. I do a little bit text mining, but my whole career is not dedicated to natural language processing. But they know how many tasks can be done, how to evaluate, how to adopt to domain applications. They know exactly many advantages and disadvantages of large language models. And that's why they are in a much better position than I to work on this problem. This is the best time for NLP people. And tons of opportunities.
Here's my take. I mean, I'm not pessimistic about the truth. I'm saying the situation push us to move into the next stage, higher phrase, right?
Yes, that's right.
We have to think more harder problem in an NLP task. So some simple benchmark. Okay, let's leave this. Okay, we move to the next stage.
Cool.
Thank you.
Happy to say that we are on the same page.
Yeah, so my question is actually related to the pre-trained language model and the knowledge graph. So previously, both the knowledge graph and the pre-trained language model are trained or most of them extract from the natural language, right? So with the knowledge, so the knowledge graph store the knowledge in a format way, in a structured way. But actually, the pre-trained language model like ChatGPT can store the knowledge in a more abstract way, but it can store the knowledge. So with the power of the pre-trained language model like ChatGPT, do we still need the knowledge graph or to construct or study the knowledge graph, or we can just maybe in the future we can ignore the knowledge graph and store all the knowledge in the pre-trained language model. So what's our panel's opinions on this idea?
Okay, so that's a good one. So actually, I will talk about it in detail later in my talk. So first of all, I want to clarify that there are different models. Large language model is a statistical models. Knowledge graph is a data model. That's different. So in knowledge graph area, actually it follows a very long history, systematic standards, protocol. We build up on the Unicode, URI, and then XML, and then RDF, RDFS, and OWL, right? Yeah. So basically, all these standards and the protocol is for how to store the data, how to exchange the data. So once we create a knowledge graph, we can share with others. And once you follow the same standards, you can use my data. So basically, knowledge graph is a data model. But for the, of course, the data model, the statistical model, they have their own advantage and disadvantage. Yeah. So later I will compare with them. Yeah.
Okay, we can take one last question.
Okay, I want to extend this question, and to my opinion, statistical model and data model, I just want to model knowledge, right? So we can model knowledge in textual format, and then we can also model knowledge in large graphs or tables or circles like that. So my question is, how to do we only can we the model, the knowledge can only be modeled by knowledge graphs because we just use some retrieval augmented language model or the logic augmented language model. But it's necessary we must to represent the knowledge in language model in the format of text. But I think because the large language model has shown the promising performance, so we just to adapt all the knowledge format to the text formats. So I want to ask if it's the only resolution to represent knowledge. Maybe we can have another try, just as Professor Hu said. Maybe we can use a small model, small local model to handle many knowledge-based tasks. But in fact, in the present, I think I have seen many people just to use large language model to represent represent knowledge in all formats. I think maybe we can find another solution. So what's your opinion of it?
Yeah, I just ask you a question. So in the past, what we will do? What's your suggestion if a company asks you, how can I improve my model? The performance, improve the model, performance of my model. So you will tell, okay, just hire more annotators to provide more annotations, right? More annotation and the model will become like smarter. But what about the model becomes so large language model? Can you tell us, let's annotate more data? How to use the more data, right? So we need a data model to organize this annotated data. Actually, what I didn't say is knowledge graph is kind of standards to organize the data, knowledge data. Yeah, I think that's my point.
Because of time limit, any takeaway or you want? Okay, yeah. So yeah, because time limited, we have to move to the next session. Let's thanks the guest again.